everybody. It's been so long. 2 weeks.
Was it 2 weeks or one?
2.
I think it was one
No, it would be 2 weeks since they've heard us.
because we I can't do the math.
Oh, Lord. Today's episode is top 5 goals for next semester. But before we get started, let's do a cheeky little check-in. Nikki, how have you been?
I have been really good. All my assignments were handed in last week, apart from I have one left and then a research project due next week. Getting those assignments done was really good. Was I 100% happy with them? No. Have I been 100% happy with any of the assignments I've handed in this semester? Also no. We'll get into that later. Either way, it was good to kind of get them done, and I feel like I'm really looking towards next semester and what the next few months are going to look like. So pretty excited about that. What about you, Ava? How are you going mid-exams?
I don't know if you can tell by my voice, but I am recovering from a cold. I am better now. But yeah, that was a little setback during my study week. However, I'm back at it. I'm an academic weapon, not an academic victim, and I'm excited to ace these exams. I've got one in 2 days and then 3 next week.
Such a testament to your commitment to this podcast that you're sitting here. You were very sick on Sunday when we planned to record, and I feel like a lot of people have been sick leading up to this assignment and kind of exam season. So I think to anyone who has been on that side of things, or is just feeling the stress of exams in general, you've got this, nearly through it. By the time we release this, it'll be about a week to go. So rest assured, winter break is on its way. So when we were planning for this episode, we were trying to think of something a bit more meaningful to chat about. We've had a couple of fun episodes leading up to exams because they are easier to edit. But we were really thinking about it, and Ava said to me, I feel like our past episodes have been quite reflective, and we should maybe do one that's kind of more about implementation. And so this is where the idea of goals, as opposed to a kind of reflecting on something we've been through or something we've learnt, came about. We are sharing a lot of goals in this episode, but it's cool to think about what your own goals would be for next semester and really think about how they have come from the lessons that you've learned, because ultimately the true purpose of reflection is to then implement change.
Our first goal is to plan the achievable, not the ideal. And what we mean by that is, let me give you a little analogy. For my pathology exam, I gave myself 2 days to go over 100 diseases. And look, that's ideal. I would love to get those 100 diseases done in 2 days. However, is it achievable? Not really. We'll see. We'll see. If by tomorrow I finish all of them, then it is achievable. But I did not enjoy the process whatsoever.
I feel like when you plan for the ideal, all you end up doing is setting yourself up for failure, because you set this huge expectation for yourself and then you obviously don't meet that expectation because, and I say this with so much love, Ava, 100 diseases in 2 days is insane. So then you just kind of end up feeling less motivated by the end of the 2 days. And rather than thinking like, look how much I have done or what's left for me to do, all you're kind of fixating on is, well, I didn't do the 100 diseases in 2 days. I'm behind. I'm not doing enough. I'm not studying enough. And that is more time consuming than it is to just sit down and think, okay, what is a realistic amount of diseases that I need to learn? What diseases do I already know? Because I'm sure that there's, 25 of those 100 that you're really across that you don't need to review again.
Within those 48 hours I have to study those diseases, I think majority of that time I'm regretting my decision of only giving myself those 2 days rather than actually doing it. Like you said, I'm just consuming my time just thinking, oh, this isn't the best approach. And with stress, giving yourself a constrained amount of time to do something, yes, it does, provide you that stress which motivates you, but too much stress can be really demotivating, like you said. So knowing what's achievable for you is really important when it comes to planning.
Planning for achievable tasks, but also within an achievable time frame. I think that's what people kind of miscalculate as well. It's like you definitely could learn 100 diseases if you wanted to. I know that you have the memory capacity and the intelligence to do that, But to do it in 2 days is a lot of pressure. You need to navigate both things in order to get the desired outcome, which is to actually know as many diseases as possible when you get into that exam.
Yeah, and it's okay to give yourself more time because then it allows you to go into more depth or know them more confidently. Whereas 2 days, it can be quite rushed and you know a bit of it, but you don't know the whole picture. And then when it comes to the exam, you're not doing yourself a favor there. You should probably know as much as you can, not just the minimum to pass.
And my assessments are predominantly assignments. I feel like there's a similar kind of mindset to assignments in that you probably could write the assignment in 2 days if you wanted to, but is the quality of the assignment that you're writing in 2 days going to be anywhere near what it would be if you've taken 2 weeks to write it? No. I really struggle with assignments because I feel like they just hang over your head and you have them from kind of the start of the semester or a couple weeks out, but often you haven't learnt the content to then like have a thesis or something like that. So I normally start writing them about 2 weeks before they're due. Something that I'm going to try really hard to do next semester is actually do a kind of more informative structure for myself so that I'm not getting to the end of writing a draft and thinking, I still don't really quite know what I'm getting at. I'm definitely one of those people who thinks through writing as opposed to thinking before writing and then writing something. But I need to actually give myself the time to do that thinking through writing as well as the planning in order to create something that's actually worth anything when I hand it in.
Although this sounds really nice in theory, I do acknowledge that people may have 4 units that they have to go through. It's hard to do this planning for every single one. I have a little strategy that I saw on Reels and I thought it was awesome. Something I'm doing right now as my study technique is one day I just dedicate all those hours for one subject. I don't think that's the ideal way of going about it because then I spend the next day doing something else and I just forget what I did yesterday. So, with exams coming up, if you're in your study week right now listening to this, your closest exam you should dedicate the most hours to throughout the day. So let's say that's 4 hours, and then the exam that's next week dedicate 2 hours, and the one that's the furthest away do 1 hour of that. So still do as many subjects as you can in one day. It's the SMART goals. They will stay with you forever. So I guess the strategy for this goal for both Nikki and I is to be smart.
100%. That's the best way to encompass it, is to be smart, to be smarter, essentially.
Exactly. Be specific, be able to measure it, be able to achieve it, make it realistic, and make it in a timely manner. I think that's what it stands for. If not, well,
Number 2 is to let go. In the context of this conversation, letting go specifically kind of refers to letting go of any kind of moment or grade or time in your semester where you felt like you haven't been living up to your own expectations. It is so upsetting to kind of receive a grade, even if you know you deserve the grade, like even if you know when you handed it in, this was not more than a 70% or whatever it is. It can be really upsetting to then receive a grade back that you feel doesn't reflect your level of effort, because occasionally that does happen. You can try really hard and still not get the outcome that you're looking for, or it doesn't necessarily reflect what you know that you're capable of. It is really easy to get very attached to this grade, and I'm very guilty of this, particularly of this semester, and for it to really define how you carry yourself through the next semester. You have to be able to let that grade go in order to improve and in order to actually work to the best of your ability in your next assignments or your next exam or your next test. Clinging to that grade is not going to help you. Absolutely learn from it. Something that I was really advised to do by my friends when I kind of went to them and said, look, there was a grade that I was really unhappy with. And I was unhappy with it not because I didn't think it was fair, but because I knew it was fair, because I knew I'd handed in a piece of work that I wasn't proud of and that didn't deserve a very good grade, even when I really wanted to get a good grade. And their advice was to go and email lecturers and to email tutors and say, what can I do better for next time? And this is probably one of the best ways to help you let go, because rather than fixating on the grade, you then decide, okay, what am I going to learn from it and how am I going to move on from there?
Something that I experienced this semester, which was quite foreign for me, I would just keep getting consistently bad grades. And who knows, maybe that was my poor lack of planning or other circumstances going on, or that the content is genuinely getting harder. Who knows why it's been like that, but it's genuinely so hard to let go. So, I don't know if I do have a strategy to give anyone who's going through the same experience, but uni or high school or just any education or just life in general, it's so inconsistent, but you can stay consistent within yourself.
Yeah, so I think in terms of implementing this for next semester, holding on to that idea of the grades might not be consistent or as consistent as you would like them to be, but you have to stay consistent because that's what is ultimately going to keep you on that upward trajectory. Because the minute that you then see those grades and you think, well, I'm just not going to try anymore, then you're guaranteed to not get better. The only way to get better and to essentially help you let go as well is to prove yourself wrong. And if that takes 3 times, 4 times, if it takes you another whole semester to be like, oh, I can still do this, that's what it takes. And you just have to keep going and you just have to trust that your consistency will pay off eventually.
And saying that, I'm actually excited for next semester because I want to see how I'm going to implement this and see whether, I don't know, if I'm true to myself and if I am able to let go.
I'm definitely letting go of this semester, next semester. Definitely leaving this one where it was. It's been a learning curve, can only go up from here.
I hope so.
For my sake or for your own? Both.
Both. Our third goal for next semester is to put ourselves out there.
So I'm actually leaving next semester, going abroad, which is very exciting but also very scary. I feel like something I really struggled with last year was actually making an effort to establish relationships with people. There were amazing people that I'd met and there were friends that I was making, but I wasn't really putting myself out there to strengthen those connections. And something that I feel like has gone really well this semester, even though my grades have kind of flopped a little, is my kind of sense of community. And part of that comes from saying yes to things. You know, I was asked to join a netball team. I'm not very good at netball. I don't play netball, but it's been really fun and it's how I've kind of strengthened a lot of my friendships. Putting yourself out there is essential for building community, and building community, I think, is essential for the university experience. I think our generation really struggles with a sense of community. I think it's very difficult to find when people are not driven to find connection in their daily lives because it's so easy on the internet to just stay within your echo chamber and to stay in contact with the people you already know. But it makes such a difference. It makes uni so much more fun.
Uni, you don't have to be someone to be somewhere. You can be anyone, and people will love you for that.
I love that because it's kind of talking about putting yourself out there also in the context of careers and opportunities. We put ourselves out there with this podcast. I mean, I genuinely looking back, like, who did we think we were? But this is how you create opportunities for yourself, and also how you take advantage of the opportunities that are being presented to you is by actually just taking that risk and thinking, well, I'm just going to try and I'm just going to give it a go. That sense of community is not just a friendships thing as much as the friendships things is so important. It's also in kind of your student life, in the projects that you're doing, and also just the kind of general community contribution you're making.
Yeah, definitely. I think volunteering at the hospital really helped kind of not just create connections, but also find what I want to do in my career. So it's brought me really closer to my values. I'm actually considering, I don't know, doing pediatrics. I Oh, by the way, I volunteer at a Perth Children's Hospital. That's why. But yeah, I've found a huge interest in neurology and stuff. But just being in that environment and being with those people really brought me closer to that community, and I really want to be there in the future.
Our fourth goal is to broaden the scope of our knowledge. And I think what we really mean by this is taking the time to engage with things that interest us that aren't necessarily prescribed to us in our courses.
Something I've noticed as a health student is I'm not watching any medical shows. And you don't have to watch a medical show to be a doctor or the best health student. but it does broaden the scope, like you said, and I don't know, it just makes you more motivated to go into that field and it gives you exposure, although you're not living it physically. It gives you an idea.
I think the amount of people that study law because they think it's going to look like Suits is hilarious to me because, I mean, same. Like, how can you not watch that show and not want to be a lawyer and to live in New York City and, I don't know, do a bunch of illegal things low key? That kind of experience of channeling your kind of aspirations through characters is so fun. And maybe it doesn't make you smarter. Like, as we were discussing, Grey's Anatomy is very inaccurate, but it gives you a knowledge of pop culture, which in itself is a legitimate form of knowledge. That is a whole rant in itself, but it is a legitimate form of knowledge. But it also, like you say, it's just a motivating kind of thing to do. It's just a bit of fun that's still kind of discipline specific, which I think is also kind of cool. I'm obsessed with journalism movies. Like I have like a roster that I'll go through and rewatch because they just encapsulate the feeling that I'm looking for in my future profession or whatever. I don't even know if I want to be a journalist, but you know, that's kind of the idea. And I feel like that is such a cool way to do it. Another cool way to do it is podcasts. Podcasts, perhaps more informative, perhaps more reflective of real life, but equally as motivating, equally as important for kind of broadening what you actually know beyond what you're just being told to know.
And it can also be textbooks. I've got so many medical textbooks just on my shelf that I haven't touched. And one day I went and opened them and I felt like Albert Einstein. Although he was like into physics, this was like the Albert Einstein book for future doctors. It was crazy. These forms of media, whether that's movies or shows or podcasts or even textbooks or even autobiographies of people who are in the same field as you, they're going to capture emotions that you're probably experiencing right now while studying. And I will admit I have watched a couple seasons of Grey's Anatomy, and the feeling of never being enough, the feeling of immense pressure, the feeling of being the greatest, I've felt those, and I think it captured it really beautifully through the characters, and I feel like it's a way of living through them. Although some of the characters do dodgy things and I don't agree with that, it's really fun.
I don't watch medical TV shows because I don't like them. And I know that I don't like them because my brother used to watch them. And I used to be like, this is disgusting. Why would you watch this? And who would want to do this for a living? And it still kind of rocks me to my core that there are people that actually want to do that. And it's not because I don't think it's important. It's just like, it's not for me. And equally as finding what is for you, it's also important to find what isn't for you. So I feel like exposing yourself to these new kind of fields and areas that you didn't even really know existed, TV shows, documentaries, whatever, such a good way to just be a bit more well-rounded in your knowledge of what you want in life, but also just a fun way to motivate yourself and to keep yourself going when times get tough.
Our final goal for today is learn to say no. And I feel like I'm really guilty of saying yes and being afraid to say no because I feel like I'm letting people down or that I'm missing out on a huge opportunity or that, I don't know, it's good to be well rounded, but still at times it's nice to take a step back and say, hey, is this ideal or is this realistic? Kind of touching back onto our first point.
I think that's very interesting because obviously coming to the end of this semester where you feel like you've said yes to a few too many things, you now have the opportunity to reflect. And that experience of doing too much that doesn't actually align with what you want is only bringing you closer to what you actually want out of your days and value. And learning what you value is a process. And so saying no is a part of that learning, is a part of realizing, oh, I don't actually have to do that in order to feel fulfilled, in order to feel like I'm working towards my goals. There are some things that align and there are some things that don't.
One thing I got behind in university that made me closer to my values and my goals in life were programs that the university was providing. This is a little plug, but for example, if you go to Curtin, there's Curtin Leaders Program, there's Skills for Success. I'm sure University of Western Australia or Notre Dame or Murdoch or ECU, they have their own versions of this. definitely look into that because they do touch on the topic of values and just any life skill in general. You learn so much from them. And honestly, I have current leaders to thank for giving me that exposure to what really truly matters to me. And it's definitely helped me be able to say no confidently to things that aren't really in my scope, which won't lead me to where I want to go.
I think last semester I made this mistake, like in my first year of uni, because I was really seeking that sense of community. And so I think I joined a few kind of uni clubs and things like that that were really interesting. Like they were great. And the people were lovely and the work that they were doing was really important, but it just wasn't me. I eventually kind of left a lot of those things because I thought this is not necessarily what I'm actually looking for. What I'm looking for is, strong friendships and an opportunity to explore impact on my community in a way that makes sense for me and the skills that I want to build. Without that experience, I wouldn't have known. If I hadn't joined them, I wouldn't have known that they weren't for me. So I guess it's kind of important for that trial and error to be in there to really learn. And as you say, there are some programs that are amazing. It's just a matter of finding the ones that work for you and that stick.
Saying yes can help you say no in the future. Yes, it can go both ways. You can also say no to say yes in the future. My interpretation was if you say yes and you realize that, oh, that wasn't for me, you know what kind of things to say no to. But if you also say no because you know straight up that, oh, that's not for me, then you know exactly what to say yes to.
And you have time to
Yeah.
say yes to the right things. Yeah, that's so real. I actually like that it's inverse like that.
Yeah.
It can go both ways. Saying yes can teach you when to say no, and equally saying no means that you have more time to say yes to the things that really matter to you. So your homework for next week is to think about some goals for your next semester, because obviously we're going to keep recording this podcast. We hope that you hold us a little bit accountable to our goals. We hope to maybe check in a little while and see how we're going. And we would love to hear from you what you're planning and what's important to you and what are you kind of taking away from this semester that you're going to carry into next semester.
It is exam season right now. It can be tough. You might be under a lot of pressure right now, but it's really important to just take care of yourself, whether that's going for a short walk, hanging out with your family. Make sure to check in on your friends, but make sure to check in on yourself. It's okay to not be okay.
And if you need support, please reach out. Your universities have support. There's so much support online. The push-up challenge actually starts this week, which
It's
we will
tomorrow.
also be doing. Yes, it starts tomorrow. I'm really excited. I'm so not ready in the sense of I can't do more than 5 push-ups. But hopefully by the end of June, we would have done that. And we will be putting up a link for donations as well. So see if you have the capacity, get behind that as well.
That's the end of today's episode. We hope you enjoyed and you resonated with some of these goals that you might want to implement in the future. Maybe you have some other ones, but best of luck for your studies, and we will check in next semester if you've accomplished them or not, holding you accountable.
Leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, lock in. We need funding so we can do cool things. Only like 4,900 listeners to go.
We're so desperate. We'll see you next
Thanks,
episode.
guys. Bye.